Yeah, so I had spent the better part of 10 years people pleasing and doing my best to be successful, living somebody else's life, unbeknownst to me. Doing all the right things, checking all the boxes, becoming successful. So if you were on the outside looking in, it looked like I was doing pretty well. 5 years later, your life is unrecognizable. Yeah, well, first I would say to that person, congratulations, like you created a life for yourself. Like on some level, even if you want to leave that career path or you're unfulfilled in that, you still are somebody who is deserving of acknowledgement for building something. And, that's an amazing thing. So it's not about casting that aside or disrespecting it. For me, I would say to that person, what is it that gets you excited? Like, what is it that you feel is unnourished in your life? Do you have a creative itch? Is there something calling you, or something, again, that you used to do as a kid that you really enjoyed, and for some reason, unbeknownst to you, you don't do it anymore? Maybe it's
music.
Like, yeah, it could be music or stand-up, or you play football, right? Like being on a football team, or just having coffee with your friend, or what have you. Finding a way to build that back into your life in a way that isn't going to derail your current life. But I think just breathing on that, like giving space to the things that bring you joy in the most primal sense, like the simplest things that just you remember made you happy, that you've forgotten, and recapturing that and finding a way to respect that, protect it, nourish it, and inject it into your life. And I think the more that you kind of tend to that garden, suddenly, a little opportunity over here pops up, or something is telling me I should move this way. These are very subtle energies that you have to be present for in order to notice them when they appear. But I think those are the subtle energies. Those are the waves you want to be surfing. And you can do that while you're working at the bank. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. And over time, maybe you start moving a little over this way. 5 years later, your life is unrecognizable. And I think this goes to the impatience that we all have. We all want to be this idealized version of ourselves, happier, fitter, thinner, richer, whatever it is, overnight. And we overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, or maybe in a couple years, and completely underestimate what we could do in a decade. We're not wired to think in decades. It seems too intangible. But if all you do is make tiny little changes to build in habits into your life that bring you joy or fulfillment or happiness or purpose in incremental micro allotments that don't disrupt the rest of your life, you do that for 10 years straight, your life is going to be different. And I can promise you that. Yeah, so I had spent the better part of 10 years people pleasing and doing my best to be successful, living somebody else's life, unbeknownst to me. Doing all the right things, checking all the boxes, becoming successful. So if you were on the outside looking in, it looked like I was doing pretty well. Inside, I was dying because my soul, my spirit was unheard and undernourished. Like I didn't know how to pay attention to myself or the signals of my soul who were telling me, I don't think you're that happy doing this. And repressing that year after year after year to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. So I was harboring a bit of an existential crisis about how I was living my life, being this lawyer and kind of showing up in the world in a certain way that always felt like a costume that didn't fit me. Meanwhile, although sober from drugs and alcohol, I sort of transferred a lot of that addiction energy into food and was eating, a terrible fast food diet, gained a lot of weight, was inactive, even though I'd been a swimmer in college, wasn't really moving my body in any meaningful way for a number of years. This existential crisis that I was having collided with this health scare shortly before I turned 40, where I was going up a flight of stairs after a long day at work and couldn't even make it all the way up. Had to stop halfway up the flight, winded, out of breath, tightness in my chest, thinking, I swam at Stanford. Like I was a world ranked swimmer. I'm like 39, about to turn 40. I feel like shit. I'm fat. And it just broke that spell of denial about how I was living, where it became intolerable to continue along that path. And it was very much like the day that I decided to go to rehab, like this moment back to willingness, like suddenly out of the blue, I was blessed with this realization, not only that I needed to change my lifestyle habits, but that I had the willingness to actually take action on that. And because the decision that I had made 10 years prior when I went to rehab had been so transformational, like I could have woken up that day and made a different decision. What would my life look like? And I had this palpable sense that once again, this was just such a moment where if I could make a decision like I had 10 years ago, maybe I could change the trajectory of my life. And I know that these moments are fleeting and they require kind of immediate action or they pass, right? You could say, maybe I should eat better or go to the gym once in a while, like I'm tired of feeling like shit. That's so vague. I knew that that wasn't going to work for me, and I needed to do something immediate that was also difficult, that would mimic the experience of going into a treatment center for drugs and alcohol. Like I needed to have a structured situation that would snap me out of my comfort zone and kind of create a new trajectory upon which I could build something different. Basically, short of like sleepwalking yourself towards the cliff's edge, staging an intervention on your life by, like concocting a crisis
sounding
that's going to compel you to confront the elephant in the room that is the thing that is holding you back. That's obvious to everyone else, and yet you're refusing to look at it. That when you are living your life out of alignment with your best self, the universe comes knocking, and it knocks gently. Like maybe you're out telling lies or whatever it is. Like you're not living your life in integrity, like in alignment with your own values. And we all do this, right? We're not all living perfect lives. So, and so when you do that, like there'll be nudges, and those nudges will be very graceful at first. And if you ignore them, a little bit louder, right? Yeah, that's fine. I can deal with that. The knocks start to get more intense, more intense, more intense, more intense. And then you get 2 DUIs in 6 months and you're in jail, or your partner leaves you, or whatever it is, right? Like how much pain are you willing to tolerate? How loud does the knock have to be before you're willing to course correct? Change is very difficult. We don't want to make change. Or if change were easy or it was a logical thing, like here's the answer, do this. And if everybody just did it, there would be no self-help industry. There wouldn't need to be any books. You just tell somebody what to do and they do it. So why don't they do it, right? We don't like to be out of our comfort zone. We have a certain way that we live our life. And until that is so disrupted, we're going to continue on that path, right? So the question becomes, how much pain do you have to be in before you're willing to walk through the fear of the unknown that the change presents? How loud does the knock have to be? How low does the elevator have to drop? And I think that answer is different for everybody. But the amazing and confusing thing about it is that the possibility of change exists in all moments. We can make that choice at any time. We don't have to suffer. We don't have to be in pain. And yet we still don't do it. So
Why?
Unlocking that mystery, well, there's your book. You can answer that question. Well, I would take it one step further, but
Please.
First, let me say this. I would say if you're finding so much joy in it, then you can recalibrate that equation about how much energy, resources, and time you're going to invest in it. But right now, if it fits into your life and it's making your life better, then the question would be, does it need to be more than that? Do you need it to be attached to some external validation or monetary reward or recognition in order for you to believe that you actually are a DJ? So I'm not saying there's an answer to that question, but it's something to think about.